and welcome to another episode of the Roll-Wise podcast, your show where we talk about tabletop RPGs and the other stuff related to them. Today, we're going to be diving into a recent experience we had playing the role-playing game Mothership, sci-fi horror RPG that takes place in space or wherever you want to, I guess. But it is a game where you basically are playing crew members and you're playing in some very unforgiving environment. Game draws inspiration from things like Alien, The Thing, and it emphasizes survival, exploration, all that kind of stuff. Our playthrough was with a person we've been gaming with a lot recently, and we really appreciate him running these extra games for us because it gives us a chance for all three of us to actually play as players, and our shenanigans were on full display this last Sunday. So, or I guess one of these previous weekends from when I guess this video comes out and all that kind of stuff. So I think we can get into the weeds of this. Do you want me to give like an overview of how Mothership works, or where do you guys want to start with this one?
Yeah, go ahead and we can talk about how Mothership works.
Okay. Well, the good news is Mothership, it follows a kind of a lineage of very simple games. You know, it's pretty much, I would say that it takes about 15 minutes to kind of pick up the premise of how the game works. It is a D100 roll under system. So you're taking two 10-sided dice and you're generating your numbers, and basically, you know, you have skills that you're rolling under. If you roll under them, you succeed. Yeah, very few skills, but you roll under them, you succeed. If you roll over them, you fail. Criticals are determined by rolling doubles. So if you double under, you succeed really well. If you double but roll over, you fail really well. And you have to manage a few other mechanics such as stress and panic and everything like that, as well as wounds. But really, the game is like incredibly simple. And I think with the 2d10s, a d20, a character sheet, you are ready to play in no time whatsoever.
Yeah, the game is basically your core stat, which can range anywhere from lowest 15 to I think they said 36 was average. And then it's your core stat plus whatever skill, which you can have in different levels. For example, my android was he had a 55 in intelligence, then a 15 in hacking. So he had the 70, and then he would roll under to succeed or fail if he rolled over. There's a lot of failure. There's a lot of failure in this game.
Yeah.
Apparently everybody caught my dice plague over the weekend. And
we rolled exceptionally bad, I thought.
Yeah, all three of us, which it wasn't just one of us that rolled exceptionally bad. It was pretty much all three of us that rolled exceptionally bad all
the time. So a couple things about the system that I think is pretty interesting is that we did play Aliens recently, and so kind of in the same vein, it is that space horror, you know, typically going to be taking from I think that if you were to look at horror from like what kind of horror are we going to get into the most? It feels like body horror. Is that the right classification for it, Brent? You're the horror expert, but I think horror.
It is a lot of body horror, a lot of isolation, it's very Aliens, and it's themes where body horror, isolation, panic, you know, those sort of things that happen in the dark. And your characters are not heroes. Your characters are space trucker types. There's three classes. There's the four. Yeah, there's the Marine, the android, the scientist, and then the Teamster. So you're all fairly, you know, you're not super capable. You're maybe capable at one thing, and you're not really capable of anything else. We didn't have a Marine, so we weren't capable of combat at all. So that's the game. The game is basically, if you're in a situation, if you have to fight, you're probably failing already. And I think the book even says that. Like, if you're in a fight, you're already failing.
Well, and I think that it's interesting and probably something that you should look at, because I was looking through the player's guide and everything like that, and it talks about how to be a great player. And so I guess just to give somebody insight as to like, what does it mean to be a very Mothership minded, let's call it Mothership minded, is that the first bullet on this is characters can die, play smart, make the most of your time, indicating that your character is destined to die, not like survive until the end of a campaign.
It's just destined, but probably gonna die.
It's like so high percentage that it feels like a Call of Cthulhu level, like, oh, you ran into the wrong monster and you didn't have an escape plan, oops, you're dead. and the second bullet being violence is violence to be punishing. If you're fighting, you're losing. Violence is deadly and should be avoided at all costs. Now we found that out firsthand in the first Xeno encounter that we had as part of our little adventure. Pretty much like I think I played it the cowardly scientist because I was like ready to book it out of there, but you guys decided to be very brave and brace the door.
Well, yeah, because we didn't want it to get in. Like that would have ruined your plan if it would have just. We all just would have ran away.
We tried to do things to make the door harder to get through.
Yeah, we weren't aware.
So poorly none of them were successful.
We weren't aware there was other ones in the thing, so we were trying to keep the one thing out.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah. So I don't think that first bullet point means that your character is going to die. What it means is maximize the choices that you make. Because they're all going to probably matter. And if you make bad choices, you're going to wind up in combat, which is where your character probably isn't going to do very well.
Yeah, you're not strong enough. You're not fast enough. You're not durable enough to outlast. You're not going to get into a war of attrition with these things.
Yeah, correct. I mean, it's one of those games that, like, what if you played a normal person? Well, and the truth is normally if you play a normal person and you get attacked by a monster, chances are, if you try and fist fight the monster, it might not go too well for you.
And it didn't in this.
And it didn't.
No, it didn't because in so many ways. Like I mean, not to say that there was a considerable amount of gore and violence in our game, considering like the first Xeno we ran into pretty much was like 75% TPK. I think at that point, like. Jeff was injured.
I was
you were nearly down.
Dead, yeah.
And
I got bishoped pretty hard by that alien.
Yeah,
my character was the android. Just so everybody knows, my character's android. Mike was the scientist, and Jeff was the teamster.
Yeah.
And one thing I will say, character creation is kind of fun because. It's basically randomly generated. You generate your stats kind of in the old school way. Then your skills are all indicated by a choice by your class, which again, Android, Teamster, etc. And then one of the cool parts is you get a roll on like your badge, like your like what badge you have on your shirt. Like what did mine say? Mine said upright citizen, I believe is what mine said. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but honestly, and I think it's worth noting. I love the character sheet for Mothership. Good job, Mike. The character sheet for Mothership. I loved it because first of all, I mean, it's nice to see somebody have an intuitive design for how the character is built. Like each section goes into the next section so well. I mean, the character sheet itself has how you resolve the section. So, I mean, I'm not going to say the character sheet is pretty. I'm just saying that as a person who's looked at a lot of different character sheets, it was super easy and super intuitive to go through this to be like, oh, roll 2d10 plus 25 for each stat. Okay. The average being 36. I think my highest stat was 30.
Oh yeah. We rolled dog shit on that too. Like all of our, like my character's strength was 25.
Yeah.
Like
yeah, no,
he was the sickliest android.
It started out bad and got worse.
Yeah. And then you roll 2d10 for each save, and you have 3 saves: sanity, fear, and body. I should say the stats: you have strength, speed, intellect, and combat. Strength being how well you lift, speed being how well you move, intellect being how well you think, and combat being just your ability to kick ass, which none of us had the ability to kick ass, which is too bad. Then you select your class. You basically just check a box, take the bonuses that it provides, roll some health, get some wounds, gain some stress.
It was really streamlined.
Yeah, and
the character creation process was really streamlined. I enjoyed it.
The other cool thing about it is all of the characters have something that interacts with the stress mechanic. So for example, if the android makes everybody else worse at rolling fear checks because the android is inherently creepy. So those checks, those are kind of interesting. We didn't experience that much in this game because we were kind of in a situation where our characters were already basically way stressed out beyond like reason.
Oh, yeah.
But like they have interesting. So if you're in situations like the actual party makeup makes a difference on how the saves go, and I think that's really has a lot of flavor to it. We did get punished by the roll under mechanic, though.
No, we did. I mean,
Tremendously.
it was so bad. Like we almost, two of us almost died in the first encounter, and just without giving anything away, my character would have been better off had I have lost the arm that got bit than the fact that I got to keep it. Like, we would have done better as a party had the creature just bit off my arm instead of infecting it.
Right.
Yeah. And so I think that was pretty nice. And the character creation process, to me, when it's so quick like that, I always feel like that's just, it kind of makes it like it's so quick to create a new character too. Guess what?
Right.
So
you can have spares. Yeah, you may need to with Mothership. Yeah, that's true.
Well, if you were going to play a campaign, unless you had a bulletproof locked room with all the food and medical supplies you'd ever need, I don't know how you would ever play a campaign with Mothership, because you'd all just die.
Yeah.
You'd have to have you'd have to have people that make really good decisions all the time in most Mothership games, I think, to play it for any length of time. And I don't know if there's I don't remember if there's an advancement system. So I think it's very much made for, I feel like Mothership is one of those games that's very much made for one shots and small story arcs, because it's not a deep system. So if you're looking for deep character advancement, you're not going to get that out of this game.
Yeah. Well, I did find it funny because you do have skill training that can take years to train and stuff like that. So getting a master skill is 6 years plus 200,000 or 200 kilocredits of material. And I like how the credit system is just basically like, oh, well, you can get BCR, which is billion credits. I was like, we didn't even see a credit in this game.
Yeah, money wasn't important in this game.
But so I think the advancement system is pretty light, but I think that I think you're probably right. This system is quick. It's easy. It helps you tell a space horror story in 0 seconds flat. Like, I mean, if you want to just get your friends around a table and you just want to put together a quick adventure, you could easily find or download a schematic for a spaceship, any system, and then you can populate it with said terrible things that you have to resolve, and then put your players in there in like 20 minutes, and you can be playing a game and watching them run around with their head chopped off, kind of thing. Chicken's head chopped off. I did notice, did you guys notice that one of the things on your character sheet was called high score?
Yeah, that's how many adventures you've survived.
Did you earlier in the player's guide, did you see what the high score average was that they mentioned?
I didn't see that. No.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
4.
4 encounters,
4 adventures, and you're pretty much like a veteran of the Mothership universe.
So you and I both have a point, because we technically
you both have a point. I think I probably died.
I got emailed afterwards. It said we died.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So we got 1 point, and then we ended up in a cryo locker or under the knife or something like that as an experiment for the company. Well, they saved me in a sense, I guess. And so I think that, I think the character creation was really, really nice. It was really easy because we just did it the same day we did the session. So we just jumped in, and us even asking lots of questions, because that's the kind of people we were able to get that pretty quick. The one thing I thought was interesting that made the characters feel more durable was the fact that you do have health and wounds. And so your characters have a certain number of health. You 1d10 plus 10. And then you have wounds. Typically, it starts at 2 unless you have a character that has a bonus to wounds, like Marines or androids have a bonus wound. And so that wound cycles through basically each time you get a wound, it resets your health, and then you go again. And
you roll on a table when you get a wound. For example, I had a head injury after our first encounter, which gave me disadvantage on every roll that I took after that. And I probably should have rolled on the table again, because I probably lost 2 wounds in that first encounter out of my 3, but the GM was nice and didn't do that to me.
Just put you on the verge of death, the whatever the comparable river Styx for androids is.
Disadvantage on all rolls is a pretty strong death spiral anyway. So disadvantage is the same as what you think. Roll twice, take the lowest on everything, and then you can get items and other things that give you advantage on rolls, so you can roll twice, then take
What,
time.
and it was neat too, because I think the system offers for flexibility and stuff like that. And I would say that the system is encouraging you to find every which way you can get advantage, if possible. And one of my favorite decisions in that was like when Jeff had his arm sucked into the Xeno's mouth, and basically he had a gun and had to choose. The choose was spray and pray and hope that I got the Xeno and
You
didn't
had
get
the
Jeff.
gun. You had the gun.
You had the gun.
Oh, I had yes, I had the gun, and I had to basically, and I could choose to kind of wildly fire in order to kind of get the Xeno, but at the risk of Jeff's hand, or I could try to, basically aim and fire. And basically, one choice gave me advantage at the risk, risking Jeff's hand, and the other choice gave me disadvantage. Therefore, also
you
risking
took advantage, and it didn't help.
No, it helped. I mean, it did. Well, consequently, I mean, it helped in the moment.
I mean, so the other thing about the system is there's no rolling through the GM. So a lot of times your rolls will succeed anyways. Like you killed the Xenos, but I believe you failed technically, and so you dismembered Jeff's hand.
No, I succeeded. I think
by the spray and pray, it was always gonna hit me. It was always
if I missed, I didn't kill. Is actually I think if I missed, I didn't kill Jeff was the presentation I got. Like if I hit, I only took one of Jeff's hands, and if I missed, I took both of Jeff's hands, and I didn't kill the Xeno. And then
it was nuts.
Go ahead.
No, I'm trying to think. Like, I don't know how we could have avoided that combat other than not exploring anything.
Well, we could have succeeded at sealing the door. We didn't
open any doors to let it out. The thing broke out of a container.
Yeah, we could have succeeded at sealing the door at first. Like, our plan to seal the door was a good one. And then once the plan to seal the door failed, I could have rolled a good strength roll and held the door against the creature. But that didn't happen either. And then Mike ran away, so he didn't help us bar the door at all.
Well, I had already failed once. I was already.
I failed to dodge the monster. So yeah, there was a lot of I think I don't think all of our decisions were bad, but all of our rolling was definitely bad.
That was horrible. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like that really plays into the third bullet, since I'm going to go back to that, how to be a great player. The odds are stacked against you. Rolls are punishing in Mothership. We found that out every step of the way. It felt like every roll almost had a trade-off, which is good. There should be consequences for you rolling. But because we were on the failure end of the spectrum for all that, it just felt like they were additionally punishing. And while we were making what I felt were reasonable choices at the time, it just felt like there was we can't win because luck is against us.
Right.
Here. Yeah. And I mean, not that winning should be your thing, but I think the goal I set for myself was to find the transponder for the station and set up an SOS. Like, I had set that as a personal goal, because unlike Aliens, there's no real personal goals that are established in this. You have to kind of either establish those yourselves. It's not really part of the character creation process. Right. You just kind of, you'll have to kind of determine on the fly. And so my goal was, I'm in an unknown place. I'm going to be a space, I'm going to speak to your manager kind of guy, send out the thing for the transponder. But ultimately the aliens got me before I could, request a manager, I guess. But yeah, I think that was the difficult choices. Like, I feel the luck was a little bit harsh in the game, and I'm not sure that that's not just baked in, because it feels like, based on other people's experience with Mothership, I feel like failing happens a lot in the game.
Yeah, it's supposed to be. It's a fairly, like you said, it's a punishing game, and I think it's known as that. And I think the fun of the game is seeing how far you can get and see how many good choices you can make to guide your character through it. And I think that's more of the fun of the game, which makes it pretty non-traditional as far as, those games. Like, you're not a heroic character. You're a normal person trying to survive this horrible thing that's happening. Whether or not you have the skills to. Basically, it would be like if I was asked to run a marathon and not die. It's that sort of like, no matter how good I am at other things, it's not going to get me through this marathon. And I think that's kind of what happened happened to us in Mothership. Although I did fail every roll on the stuff I was good at too. So, whatever.
Yeah, even the few things I tried that were within my skill set failed miserably.
Our characters had a super bad day.
They did.
Basically what it came down to.
We paid for it with our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, and and that's something that's very interesting to me, because I feel like while at the time in the session, I had a blast in the session. Like I had
it was a lot of fun.
It
was a lot of fun, and there was a lot of tension.
But
I like that from a storytelling standpoint. But yeah, go ahead.
But I don't think that I don't think I would want to repeat that feeling if I were to play 5 games of Mothership, I would not want to feel in 5 games of Mothership that I succeeded 1 in 5 sessions. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not just saying succeeded as by reaching the goal at the end of the session. I'm saying I rolled dice and actually succeeded at something. And it's a weird feeling, because we've played so many games that even if they're not heroic, like Dragonbane isn't particularly heroic, but you guys are at least competent. And so you're rolling your D20 under system, and you're succeeding enough in dice rolls that it feels like, oh, I succeeded in this part. I'll case in point, obviously Brent is a linguist against as well, but the point is that there are successes to build on so that you can guide yourself forward feeling good about your character. Whereas it felt like in this one there was just so many failures that if we had to do a second session, a third session, I think it would lose its luster.
But see, I don't think they all feel that way. I think even the fact that we were all failing things that we were even good at, like the fact that there's a 2/3 chance that I do stuff with computers and still manage to fail on those rolls fairly consistently. It was just bad luck. And I don't think a second Mothership game. I would like to play the game again, just because I think it would be interesting to see if our luck changes, because I think it was definitely us rolling bad that had to put us in the worst situations. And I don't think you're never going to do well at combat, but you might do more. Like you had zoology, right? That was one of your scientist things. You might do better at identifying things about the creature that make it easier for us to avoid them, or at least know to try and use the thing that you're good at more often. And I think that's the stuff that I think Mothership is a game you have to get good at. I think you have to kind of play the game and get good at, well, I can use this skill to do other things. It's one of those things where you have to kind of play the skills into your advantage. Like my computer stuff, my hacking thing, I probably should have done a lot more with that. Like seeing if I could hack the phone to get it to work, seeing if I could have, hacked more of the computer, or, I probably should have been trying to do that way more often.
Well, we didn't get much chance because we disturbed that one creature in the container, even though we didn't open the door. And then it essentially was on, it broke free. And then we were in that building with all the stuff that we could have tried to do stuff, or found tools that we could just use. Like the example that I've seen often is, instead of having to roll to pick a lock, if you find a laser cutter, you just use the laser cutter to cut it, right? And then you don't have to worry about rolls and relying on rolls. But we didn't even have a chance to look at the way it played out. Was probably unfortunate, and it was against, and then we rolled bad on top of that, and it it was just a snowball, man. It was an avalanche by the time it was over.
Yeah, it was, and that's true. I'm just curious, because it feels like your characters are kind of going towards it. I'm just wondering if there is an experience that you get out of this where your characters feel like a different kind of tension. That you're fighting against the alien, but you succeed and actually knock the alien back, only to find that you didn't sense the other alien crawling on the ceiling tiles to get you, kind of thing. Where I
think winning's like the kitchen scene with the kids in Jurassic Park, right? Where they're just kind of not getting discovered by the velociraptors, but they're scared shitless.
Yeah.
I think that's winning in Mothership.
Yeah, I think in this case, if we would have subdued the monster before my head got melon balled on the floor, I think they definitely would have been a different tension, because we wouldn't have known there were obviously other creatures in the area that we didn't know about, and so the tension definitely would have been different. But at that point, we were pretty much on our heels entirely, which that was the tension that we had. It's just the tension of, oh, we're not suited to be doing this right now, or maybe ever. And I think that kind of set the tone, and that's a pretty grim tone. Like it is like the fact that we're so close to being gone so soon sets a pretty grim tone. But I think it would have been different if we would have done better. And I think normally, well, my character definitely wouldn't have done better on the strength test. But maybe if he had help and the scientist hadn't just run away, maybe he would have done a little bit better.
Why do you think I hired you, man? I'm not going to charge into danger
to do computer stuff. That was what that was why.
I took out a loan.
But anyways, so that I think the game changes. I think we should try it again sometime. I think
it does feel like there's a lot there's a lot of good that goes with the game being this simple, is that people can hack the crap out of it. Cloud Empress is a game that has hacked the system to kind of use it for its own ends, and that's a game I'm really interested in. But I think that I don't think there's any limit on the types of stuff that you can do with it, because it's such a simple basis, and I do have to say that it won the 2019 award, any award for best game or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, people love Mothership.
So people have liked this for a considerable amount of time, and going from its original printing to the first edition, they took a lot of feedback, and I guess they corrected some of the initial maybe problems with the game, but the first edition is out now. I think you can get it directly from the publisher, Tuesday Night Games. I think it is Tuesday Night Games.
You can also find it's available. I've seen it at one of my friendly local game stores. So
Oh, is it?
Yep. And I mean, you can basically go and get the companion app on your phone, and it will roll up a character. You can make a character within seconds on it. You can they have a warden educational system that you can do. It's like basically they put like an online training for you to learn the basics of the game. So like I said, the game has zero barrier to play, which is like, again, really nice.
Well, even the game being so simple, I mean, it's a white pamphlet. Like it's a pamphlet.
That's true.
Game. And because it's so simple, like you said, a lot of fan-made content is out there. Fan-made scenarios, fan-made hacks to the game. Like people love the game because it's so simple, and it is pretty grim. But like, if you feel like your game's too deadly, I think there's enough space in it for your GM to change that too.
Well, 100%. Yeah. Like you could do that. And people have said that the content for the game, first party content, third party content, like both sides of that coin are just phenomenal, and I think that that's probably what I would like to explore, is to see what people have published out there to get, like I think Hull Breach is one of the really well regarded ones.
I think that's the fanzine, isn't it? Where they produce.
I think so. It's like an anthology or something like that. But it's like, it's got, people really have, any place I've looked that's been a really well regarded. Sure. Hull Breach, get that one. And then there's a few others that are pretty good too. But needless to say, I mean, I think right now you can say that we played 2 of the space horror games. We played Alien, the role-playing game. We played Mothership. Preferentially, I think, out of curiosity, which would you guys play if you had to play an Alien space game, if you had to choose one? Because now we're going to go get whatever Death in Space or whatever.
There's Death in Space, Those Dark Places, Vastgrim is another one that's kind of like that.
We can.
I think it depends. I think there's cases where I would rather play Aliens, and I think there's cases where I'd rather play Mothership.
Yeah, I agree with Jeff in that Alien is a deep game. Like Alien has a lot to it, not just mechanically, but psychologically. Like there's a lot involved, and you can't, like, one of the things that we talked about when we talked about Alien is like making characters for Alien is difficult because you have to set up all of their like goals and stuff like that. Their secret stuff, you have to kind of set that all up like between the players and stuff like that on the side, or the GM has to do all that himself or whatever. And so it's deep. It's a lot more crunchy, not just mechanically, even though the mechanics are pretty simple. It's deeper both mechanically and psychologically because you have a lot you have to do with the characters. Mothership is super simple. You just roll up your characters, you play the adventure, you can make goals and stuff like that, and then you can complicate it more based on your table. Like you can make goals and stuff like that. So I think there's a place for both games. They're just used for different stuff.
Yeah, if I want horror and intrigue, because like it's possible to have a party in Aliens and have 4 people working towards 4 separate goals, and
it's encouraged.
And in Mothership, you have 4 people trying to stay alive.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Like I think that there's an appeal for me. Our first experience was brutal, and not every game's for every person, right? And it's okay, to like what you like and not like what you don't like. But if I just want to play like a survival in space game, I might just want to play Mothership. So that I don't have to worry about getting stabbed in the back by the people standing next to me.
Well,
fair enough.
No. Well, you still could. You still could,
right.
But to say,
Aliens really
I don't know if you saw what you were turning into, Jeff, but you would have stabbed us in the back in a few moments.
Aliens does encourage it, and it might be a goal of one of the players to eliminate another player. That's 100% correct. There is a lot more of that social intrigue to Alien, and it does have a different feeling because you're playing an Aliens game. Like you're always going to have that moment where when you step on that space station or you step on that ship, you're going to have that moment where you're like, I'm playing in an Alien game. Something horrible is about to happen. Mothership, you probably know something's going to happen, but you don't know what is going to happen because it's not necessarily an Alien game. And I think that's one of the difference, and the thing that people love about Mothership is it doesn't have to be an Alien game. It could be an android who went crazy on the space station, or pod people, or any of those other like science fiction tropes.
Or you're just lost in space with the engines suddenly not working.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And that would be that might be a really interesting Mothership game where it's like, you're on a ship and it's failing. What are you guys doing to try and survive the ship dying? That could be interesting. So those are interesting things about they're very different games. Even though they're similar in kind of content, they're very different games in how they address the type of game. I like them both. I would have a harder time running Aliens because I feel like it's harder to create your own scenario for Aliens because of a lot of the work that you have to do, whereas Mothership is an OSR style game where you could just you could probably find some tables online and roll up an adventure with Mothership and have a fun one shot with your players. And I think it can either be deep. It can either be a deep series of adventures where the characters score points and try to get the high score, or it could be like just a fun one shot in a dungeon crawl in a spaceship.
So
it's true.
So you felt a little different than Brett and I then, Mike, right?
Me personally, I think it might be just that we didn't do well. I think psychologically there is a component of it that it's just like hard to get past. That you're like, oh man, we just weren't seeing. But I think in terms of like the type of tension that it builds, like I think I told you guys offline, I'm not as big of a fan of failure driving the tension. I like tension to be generated organically from the decisions you make to create different circumstances. Even as a GM, I can't say that I'm an expert at generating those for you guys, but I think, having you guys, roll dice to generate tension I don't think that's my favorite outcome. I think the storytelling generates tension. Like I think when we did Invasion, when we had the moment where Jeff used his auto writing and everything like that, and all of a sudden he was like, oh shit, a huge clue was developed, and we like piece together a clue from the description of his auto writing and everything, that I thought was kind of a neat way to do it, because now you had like a time element to this thing.
Sure.
You knew an answer to something, but you had to now get to it. You had to go walk out into the snowy Scandinavian wilderness to see if your auto writing was correct or how correct it was, kind of thing. But there was no failure in roll or anything like that. It was a narrative device that generated it. So I think
he's in the Vason game, he did succeed at the roll for that.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, there was a dice roll for that.
My apologies. There was a dice roll. He succeeded, but
But narratively, it was good.
Yeah.
But I feel like narratively in this Mothership game, there's a lot of tension before we ever encountered an alien.
It's true.
We knew
you
what was wrong.
expected it.
Yeah. Well, we knew something was wrong. We didn't really know. I didn't know it was an alien for sure. I wasn't sure. We just knew something went wrong. And then I think the tension became us failing because we were failing so often. I definitely don't think that was the intent of the scenario. No, I think that's just what happened with us. Is
the way it snowballed.
Failure became our present
failure.
State.
Definitely drove it.
Yeah, failure became our present state.
The one thing I do like, and this is one, and aside from what you guys have mentioned about Alien and stuff like that, I did like the panic process in Aliens a little bit better with the stress dice, because I like how stress made you better until it didn't, kind of thing. Whereas it just felt like I didn't get a good enough feeling as to how panic really played Mothership so well.
Panic would have made us worse.
Well, and it's different, but it's different for the different, character classes, and we didn't get a chance to see how those character classes impacted the stress mechanic, which, no fault of the GM, it just didn't come up. And I think that's why it would be good to play it again. I think to play a couple sessions of it, I think would be neat.
Because in terms of like when you make panic checks, you make it typically when another crew member dies. Other crew members panic. Sometimes the trauma response of other crew members cause panic and all that stuff. So it can be a little bit of a cascading thing. But then there's actually effects, and that's why you have a D20, is that you roll a D20 on the panic effect tape, and then you get to see like what horrible thing happens to your character.
You technically take stress every time you fail a roll.
Yeah,
and that's one of the reasons it didn't come up, is we failed so much that we were just all stressed out all the time. Like there was actually too many times to count. So
so I think that in terms of like how that would have probably gone for us, is that if there was a way for us to encounter something and just like panic and then just the character is insta dead, I'm sure that would have happened under other circumstances.
Well, I could have been insta dead when I get hit. When you take a wound, you can die instantly on that table.
That's true. Yeah.
Like, so I mean, that didn't happen. I think the critical roll was barring the door. And when barring the door was the first failure that led to the cascade of us not doing well in the scenario. That was the first failure. The second failure was when I failed to hold the door.
Yeah.
And then the third was when I failed to dodge out of the way of the monster coming through the door.
Well, I know, but I tried to attack it like 4 times and didn't hit it once.
Well, but what I'm saying is if we would have been in a situation where we barred the door, that erases all of the failures after that for a little while. And I think that was the key moment that turned the tide of the adventure was, we're in a lot of trouble now. He's pinned to the ground being chewed on.
Yeah.
How the other guy's being chewed on.
Our choices were save you or run, and we tried to save you.
Well, I ran.
And then Mike tried to save me, and then it just, it was a mess.
Yeah, you guys could have made that choice. That would have been
I still had fun.
That would have been an interesting character choice. Okay, we leave the android and we bar the other door with him in there with the alien. That would have been a valid choice.
That's a difficult choice,
Maybe the smart choice. I mean, he's just an android. He's not really alive or anything.
Well, and I do like how the game encourages you to when you make difficult choices, kind of like in another Vaesen game we played, where it's, there might have been like a win condition somewhere in there, but sometimes those, as they say, that like surviving, solving the mystery, or saving the day, they could be mutually exclusive outcomes. and be prepared to understand that from a player perspective, is that you surviving the day is just as a valid exit from the scenario.
You mean the Vaesen game where we saved the girl, which became really the only thing that we were focused on by the end of the game?
Yeah, you saved the girl, which is good.
Well, yeah, we won.
We won. You made a win. W.
We all felt like we won.
Yeah.
That was a fun conversation after that game when we were all like, no, we felt like we did good. We saved the girl. We felt like we won. And you're but the town sunk. Not our problem.
It was like if the Ghostbusters had released the big bad out of the containment unit, and then we're like, well, I mean, we saved the building,
No, it was like the Ghostbusters killed Gozer and destroyed half the city. which is what happened.
It's true. That's true. Yeah, no, it was good. So I think that Mothership is popular for the right reasons. I think it's got a lot of good, and I think that sometimes really well executed games don't need a million rules to create the environment which allows for great storytelling to happen. This seems like it has the right amount of rules to do really well. Now, are there some quibbles? Obviously, there's some quibbles about it.
It's okay to say that the game just isn't for you.
Yeah,
but it is okay to say the game isn't for you.
2/3 of us are okay with it, and 1/3 of us isn't. That's all right.
We got 2 thumbs up, right? We got 1 thumb down from.
I'm just happy I'm not the dissenting third this time.
I would say that if somebody was like, "Hey, Mike, would you like to play Mothership with us?" I'd be like, "Okay, let's play Mothership." I'm not going to say like no to playing in a game or something like that,
right?
But obviously, if I'm not so dissenting that I'm like, oh, if somebody says Mothership, I'm like, fuck that game, I hate it. No.
I'm just fucking depressed after I play it.
We should probably. Why don't we just play Aliens?
Yeah, I might suggest. Hey, if I'm running the game, I might suggest we play Aliens.
If you're running it, I can see it, but like, if somebody else is running it, I definitely think you should play Mothership, just because like saying, hey, we should play Aliens means like the GM is going to be like, hey, that's a lot more work. I think I'll play Mothership.
Maybe. I mean, you could obviously the game is what you put into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot that goes either way, but
I think Mothership's ease of play and character creation is why it's so popular.
Oh yeah, 100%. And it's got cool art in the books. So I did read online that there's a Warden's Operation Manual. I think you have a copy of that, Brent. Do you? It should have come with the book, maybe.
I don't have the first. I didn't buy the first edition Kickstarter. I have the original pamphlet that they sent out.
Okay. Jeff, did you buy?
No, I thought about backing the Kickstarter.
I might. If it's in one
of buying the box when I saw it.
If it's in one of the local stores, I might buy it though.
Yeah, what I've heard is that as I was doing a little bit of lookup just to kind of get some understanding of some of the stuff about Mothership, is that I came across that there is something called the Warden's Operation Manual. The Warden's Operation Manual appears to be what some people are saying the right way to write a DM's guide. If that so it's really cool because like obviously if you've played 5th edition or something like that, you open up the DMG and it takes you dozens of pages to get to any point of consequence, because there's a lot of fluff in it. Whereas like the Warden's Guide, it seems like it's not very long. It might have been less than 100 pages when I looked on the
I did buy that PDF. I did buy the PDF of it though.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the Warden's Operations Guide, I think it's not very long. I think it's longer than the player's book, but not by much. But it basically is a way, according to what I read, to say like, hey, you know what? Here are some great ideas for you to run good Mothership games if you want as a DM to create your own stuff. None of these are locked in stone, but these are just some great design ideas that we have to help you build the best scenarios that you can. And I might be oversimplifying. So if anybody has played tons of Mothership and they want to roast me in the comments, go ahead. But I think that's what it is. And I think that it would be a good book to review because if there's good design principles, obviously those transcend Mothership, the game. And I think that would be worth evaluating and taking a look at. So.
Yeah, Mothership is a very rules-like game. And I haven't looked at the Warden's pamphlet, but I'm sure their suggestions are pretty good. So
yeah. So hats off to Sean McCoy, the writer of Mothership. Good job. I mean, it's a good game, even if it's not everybody's cup of tea. Good game.
Yeah. Tell us about your Mothership games in the comments. We'd like to hear it.
Yeah. And if you'd like us to recount our terrible adventures in any other RPGs, make sure you like and subscribe and do the whole bell ringing thing. I just snuck that in there. How do you like that segue?
That was an excellent segue until you pointed it out.
Yeah.
Boom. Until you pointed it out, it was perfect.
Yeah. Oh, dang. I mean, I didn't say any of that stuff just now. So just remember the like and subscribe part. But yeah, no, if you like the content too, let us know. We really appreciate everybody commenting. We like to explore a ton of different types of games. We're really interested to hear what stories people have to share with their Mothership experience, whether they enjoyed it, whether they hate it. I mean, I'd be curious. I'd like to know both sides. So like, why do you love it? Why do you hate it?
Yeah, I mean, there is a Reddit post that said, how do people play this game? It's so depressing. So
is there?
Yeah, there is. I saw. Yeah, I saw it when I was looking at. I was looking at it. There is a Reddit post that's like in the Mothership Reddit that's like, oh, how do people play this game? It's so depressing. Yeah, so depressing and hard, basically. So there are other people that agree with you.
Well, I'll look. I mean, I feel like playing horror carries with it some. Like horror doesn't necessarily mean like what is it? Is it Hansel and Gretel that stick the witch in the oven? Like not every horror game ends with you surviving the ordeal. You know, that's the part of the horror game, right? It's just kind of baked in.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'd be curious to read that Reddit post. I'll go take a look for it.
I'll see if I can find it again, and I'll send it to you.
Yeah. I'm curious now. Why is it so depressing? It's a miserable experience.
Yeah, which
Misery Simulator or something.
Misery Simulator. There's the name of my RPG if I ever come out with one. Misery Simulator.
Yeah. Checks out.
So okay. I think we're getting a little off topic here. So time out. Jeff, you tell him how to contact us via socials, and Brent will send us into the wild.
Yeah. If you love Mothership and you want to talk about it on our social media, find us on Facebook, Threads, or Twitter. We are at Rollwise. You can also email us, rollwiseguys@gmail.com. And if you did not like Mothership, make sure that email says Mike.
It's directed. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We appreciate you always joining us and listening. We hope you made it this far to hear me say thank you. And as always, roll well, roll wise, and be safe out there, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.